Hello everyone. Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, "By in the Habit of Always Looking My Way," and quote. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. By came into my life without any dramatic entrance. No loud meows, no scratch furniture, no desperate cries. He simply appeared one afternoon, small and calm, with eyes that seemed far too observant for a kitten. From the very first day, I noticed something unusual about him. Wherever I went, whatever I did, I always found a way to look in my direction. In the mornings, when sunlight slipped through the curtains and painted soft lines across the floor, I would sit near the window. He rarely chased the light like other cats. Instead, he turned his head toward me as I brushed my teeth or prepared breakfast. His gaze was not demanding. It wasn't hungry or impatient. It was gentle, steady, and strangely comforting, as if he were silently saying, "I'm here. I see you." Our days followed a simple rhythm. I worked from home, spending hours in front of my computer. I made my workspace his own in quiet ways. He never jumped on the keyboard or knocked things over. He preferred sitting a short distance away, sometimes on the edge of the desk, sometimes on the floor, always positioned so he could see me. When I moved, his eyes followed. When I stopped, he blinked slowly, a cat's version of a smile. At first, I thought it was coincidence. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and the pattern never changed. If I stood up to stretch, his head lifted. If I sighed after a long email, his tail flicked once, and his eyes met mine. Even when he slept, he chose places where he could wake up and immediately find me. In the evenings, after dinner, I liked to sit on the couch and scroll through my phone. I would jump up beside me, curl into a neat loaf, and stare at my face. Not at my hands. Not at the screen. At me. Sometimes I looked back and laughed. "Why are you always watching me, Bai?" He never answered, of course. But he never looked away either. There was nothing extraordinary happening in our lives. No big adventures. No dramatic events. Just ordinary days. Yet somehow, Bai's quiet habit turned these ordinary moments into something warmer, something softer. His eyes made the room feel less empty, even when no words were spoken. As time passed, I began to notice how Bai's gaze changed with my moods. On busy days, when deadlines piled up and my shoulders tightened without me realizing it, Bai's eyes seemed more focused. He would sit closer, his body angled toward me, as if paying extra attention. When I laughed during a phone call with a friend, his ears twitched forward, and his eyes softened, almost amused. One rainy afternoon, work didn't go well. I closed my laptop harder than necessary and leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I was on the windowsill, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. When he heard the sound of the laptop closing, he turned immediately. His eyes met mine from across the room. Slowly, he jumped down and walked over, stopping right in front of me. He didn't climb onto my lap. He didn't demand petting. He just sat there, looking up at my face, calm and patient. That was the moment I realized something important. Bai wasn't watching me because he wanted something. He wasn't asking for food or playtime. He was simply paying attention. Cats are often described as independent, distant, or even selfish. Bai challenged all of those ideas in the quietest way possible. His attention felt intentional. When I talked to him, even casually, his eyes stayed locked on mine. When I told him about my day, even though he couldn't understand the words, he listened with his whole presence. Sometimes, late at night, I would sit by the window, lost in my thoughts. The city lights flickered outside, and the room was silent except for the hum of distant traffic. Bai would sit across from me, his eyes reflecting the light, still watching. In those moments, I felt strangely understood. Not judged, not rushed, just seen. I began to respond differently because of him. I spoke more softly. I moved more slowly. I found myself taking deeper breaths without realizing why. Bai's steady gaze grounded me. It reminded me to stay in the moment instead of constantly worrying about what came next. Friends who visited noticed it too. "Your cat keeps staring at you," they would say, laughing. I smiled and shrugged, but inside, I felt proud. Not because Bai chose me as his person, but because we shared something wordless and sincere. Bai didn't need to speak. His habit of always looking my way became his language. A language of presence, attention, and quiet care. As months passed, I realized that Bai had changed me more than I had changed him. Before Bai, I often rush through my days, half present, half lost in my thoughts. With him around, always watching, I became more aware of myself. I noticed my posture, my tone of voice, even my emotions more clearly. Bai taught me that connection doesn't have to be loud or obvious. Sometimes, it's just about being there, about choosing to pay attention, even when nothing exciting is happening. Now, when I catch Bai looking at me from across the room, I don't laugh as often as I used to. Instead, I meet his gaze. We share a few quiet seconds. No words, no expectations, just mutual presence. In a world full of screens, notifications, and constant noise, Bai's simple habit feels like a gift. He reminds me that relationships, whether with animals or humans, are built in small moments. In glances, in stillness, in choosing to notice one another. Bai's habit of always looking my way reflects something deeply meaningful about life today. We live in a time where attention is constantly divided. We listen while scrolling, speak while thinking about something else, and often miss the emotions behind the words. Bai shows us another way to connect, through presence. From Bai, we can learn the value of truly seeing those around us. Whether it is a family member, a friend, or even ourselves, giving full attention builds trust and emotional safety. Animals, especially pets, communicate not through complex language, but through consistency and sincerity. By observing them, we learn to slow down and respond with empathy. In daily life, try to practice what Bai does naturally. When someone speaks, put your phone down and look at them. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and breathe, just as Bai calmly sits and observes. Treat animals with patience and respect, understanding that they offer companionship in ways words cannot express. The bond between humans and animals reminds us that love does not need to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes, the quietest attention creates the deepest connection.